On today's podcast, we have quite an experienced guest. We have Mr. Danny Laws. He's a UEFA A coach with over 30 years of experience in coaching and teaching in various roles across a wide range of development and elite levels. He currently serves as the head of football and academy director at AFC Sudbury, previously head coach of Needham Market FC, head coach of England Colleges FA, head of education and welfare at Norwich City, and an FA licensed coach education tutor. He's also got school sports partnership manager of Suffolk and runs his own coaching and coach education business called DKL Solutions. And in addition, he has a BSc honors degree in sports and exercise science. That's quite a journey, quite an achievement, Danny. But let's hear from you about your life and your journey.
Pleased to meet you, Ryan. Yeah, little bit of a mouthful for you to read off there. Sorry about that. A few diverse roles, yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. So let's hear from you about, what your journey has been like, what your life has been like in football.
Well, obviously, like most of us, began playing as a kid. I was a goalkeeper. That was my position, always was. Not now, not anymore. If I join in any sessions, I don't join in goal, that's for sure. Yeah, and then took me to always had a interest in all sports really, which is why I ended up going down the route, going and studying sport and exercise science at university. Still playing some non-league, semi-professional football, and then maybe a bit like a lot of coaches who get into it probably a little bit early. I suffered two major injuries. One was a shoulder injury, which is not great if you're a goalkeeper, and the other one was an ACL, and really that sort of accelerated my coaching career. Really, that was the catalyst that I had to stop playing, and then I was involved in coaching various roles, community roles, school teams, kids teams, everything which a young up and coming coach would have done at the time, just getting that time on the grass early on and making all those mistakes, which probably I still do, to be honest, but there you go.
Humble of you, you have done it all. You have done it all for sure. Now, you have established the AFC Sudbury Football Academy and the Needham Market FC Academy and a youth development section of Leiston FC from scratch. So what is your ideology and method when forming a new youth setup? Because, this can potentially be used as a reference by coaches around the world who might wish to start their own youth setup.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's got to be a club-wide policy. So if you're developing a youth section for your football club, then you have to have buy-in from above. You can't just do it because it seems to be the right thing to do. It might not be the right thing to do for that football club at that time, and then the buy-in comes with eventually giving youth a chance at the senior levels. So you can't have a youth system that stops at 18 and then all your players go.
Yeah.
Now I know different clubs around the world run differently and things like that, but ultimately for a youth system to be successful, you are going to be judged on first team appearances, men's and women's senior first team appearances. That is going to be a factor. So the ideology, if you like, is can you work with these players with that, and can you give them that end goal of playing in the senior teams? So then that all feeds back down. So what does it look like to play senior football? And that I think's the basis of how I've operated when and still do working within a youth system, the youth development system.
And how much do you think your role as a PE teacher and academic teacher of ICT, mathematics, and religious studies has contributed towards shaping your coaching competency, if at all?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in my journey, I did a degree in sport and exercise science. I then did uh, what is called in England a PGCE to learn to be qualified as a teacher. I have no doubt that that training is probably the best training I've had. Well, by far the best training I've had to be able to deliver sessions, to be able to plan, uh, reflect on sessions, to be able to try and make them better, to deliver blocks of work, and all of that comes from teaching and session management, range of things, behaviour, all of those things which come natural to a teacher who's in a classroom or out on a PE field teaching different sports. That becomes natural over time, and then that those skills and those what should I put it? Those behaviours of the coach are just ingrained, and it's massively important. I see other coaches same. A good example is the guys who've just taken over at Colchester United, Danny and Nicky Cowley, the brothers. They're former PE teachers, and I think their success and a lot of what they learned would, if you spoke to those guys, they would tell you pretty much the same as I have, I would imagine.
Yes, because I think since you're dealing with human beings in football as well as in education, I'm sure a lot of these skills are interlinked for sure. Now, a bit more about your achievements. So, at Suffolk County, you won the FA County Youth Cup, becoming the first ever Suffolk team to win the national trophy. You also won the national ESFA County Under 19 Schools Trophy twice and various regional, divisional Under 18 and Under 19 champions. So, I think it's right to ask you, as a coach, what are some key considerations to keep in mind when training the under 18 and under 19 age group to aim for maximized development of the players?
Yeah, I think in youth development we're not judged on winning trophies. We're judged on what I said earlier about developing players to have a senior career at whatever level that is, at the best level they can possibly achieve, and to have an adult career between the age of when they leave a youth system, which is around 18, 19, even 21 now. When they leave a youth system, if they can then have a successful adult career, playing first teams at whatever level, that's really the judgment of success. However, I do believe that if you are in part of, particularly when they're older, like you said, under 18, under 19, with those successes, if you are teaching and coaching kids how to win, then you're also developing them for what they're going to be expected to do when they play in adult senior first teams. So developing tactics, going into more depth on a wide range of in possession, out of possession strategies, set piece for and against, those type of more adult related practices within your coaching. I think you do have a responsibility in youth development to try and help them along the journey to win football matches, because if they come into if you've never really done that and they come into a first team environment and the manager is his or her job is to win football matches, but you haven't really developed players with that mindset, then they're not going to survive. So you're not doing your job. So also when you play in county finals like the ones you've mentioned, or at Sudbury we've played in uh, latter stages, semi-finals, finals of competitions, you are exposing players to a different type of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of our academy teams yesterday went out in the county quarter final, adult. They were playing in an adult division competition. They lost on a penalty shootout.
Okay.
So you are exposing them to those environments and pressures in a way to equip them and give them the tools and experience, if you like, to when they go and play senior adult football. So playing in competitions, latter stages, winning, losing, all of that, I think is a feeling you can't ignore in your coaching, and to enter competitions to win them. Sometimes it's seen in youth development as not the thing, not the right thing to do. But for me, the exposure and the positives you get from that are massive.
So I think it's just about creating a first team environment, but not in a first team environment. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now,
Mm.
yes, counting now for more of your success, you are the first team manager at Needham Market FC and won the equivalent of one trophy per season, including the Eastern Counties League title. So, as a first team manager at a club where players are not committed full time, to the task as professional footballers, how would you manage expectations and maintain demands and standards from them?
Yeah, I think even back then, that was quite a while ago now. Uh, the the players are getting paid to play at that level. So, all right, probably their hourly rate, when you consider it, is not huge. But if you're gonna give players a wage and you're going to ask them to compete in national competitions like the FA Vars at the time, and all the resources and expense what goes into that, then you have to drive professional standards. You're getting paid to do a job, albeit a part-time job, but yeah, you're trying to get as close with your preparation, with your standards, with your coaching methodology. Everything you're trying to drive has got to be as close to the professional game as you possibly can within the resources you've got. It's if players are if players at that level want to take a wage from you, then they've got to take the responsibility. It's not a kick around with their friends. They have to approach it. But I always use the phrase: there's paying customers getting in. There's paying customers at the door. That you're not here just to be sloppy or to just turn up and play. You have a big level of responsibility, and that's I look at when I haven't been a first team manager in non-league for quite a while now, probably I don't know, nearly probably 10 years. But even back then the standards were getting higher, but now that with coach education and with how the game is developed and technology at the disposal at that level as well, you have really well organised, and you have some really good coaches in the non-league system in the UK for sure.
Brilliant. And now we talk a bit about pressure. So you're also the first team manager at Leicester FC, where you ensured that the team escaped relegation in the Ryman Premier Division, if that's how you
Yeah,
pronounce it.
yeah.
So now being appointed only for the last 14 games of the season. So now if a coach
Mm.
goes into a similar situation where they are tasked with having to deliver results at an under pressure club, then what should their approach be like?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I don't know why I took that gig on really, but anyway, um, that's a long time ago as well. I I think I think you see it at the top level. There's certain managers who are brought in, aren't they, when a team is needs to get to safety. And I'm not saying I copied their ideas or there's any magic formula. I think one thing, Ryan, is for sure, it will be your players who will determine whether you get relegated or not. So the first thing you do is you must assess your staff, sorry, your playing staff. So if you have to make quick judgments on whether the players you've got in the building are going to be good enough to not good enough, but whether they're showing enough attributes, and if there's key areas where you think, could be you've got a lack of goals, or your midfield is not physical, or goalkeeper is showing weaknesses or whatever. you have to go in and assess your playing staff, because you can change methods as a coach in 15 games or whatever. You can influence this, but ultimately it will be the players who will get you relegated or not. It will be them, and you have to make very quick decisions, and you need to stick to your decisions, and you need to do as much observation as you possibly can, and you have to be pretty ruthless, really. If you believe a player in the team is not good enough for that moment, then you would have to look to change or whatever, if whatever you could. I don't know about transfer windows and whatever level you're at, but you would need to assess your playing personnel. That's a given.
So now,
And
yeah.
and ultimately, it sounds awful, but if the previous manager, for whatever reason, he or she has left, then that probably isn't down to them, not in its entirety. That the root of the problem will rely on the players. So it's just a fresh pair of eyes on those players to assess them, really.
So now, ruthlessness is, of course, something that's required. I don't think there's another way around a situation like this. So, does this affect team cohesion? Does it affect the harmony at all?
Well, yeah. You might decide that a popular player within the group is the one who needs to move to the side, and that can have impacts. But ultimately, as well, players don't want relegation or defeats on their CV. So they need to step up and ultimately back what you're doing. But yeah, it's difficult. But that might coincide with a change of shape, maybe a change of philosophy. You might decide to go more direct, and you might have a wide range of things which you might do. And then I think if they're explained to the players, then and by the way, this player or that player is not going to be involved in this sort of starting 11. If you explain that to players, then they'll usually come with you, I think.
Right. It's a complex job for sure. Now
Yeah.
at Norwich City, you are implementing a full education program for scholars. So now, what is the daily life like for an academy scholar at a reputed club like Norwich?
Again, it was quite a while ago. The the youth development system, for scholars 16 to 19. I think that question is an interesting one. I'm not 100% what it's like in the sort of now, because when I worked at Norwich, it was quite a while ago. But I think one of the things is that a scholar's life is pretty busy.
Yeah.
There seems to be sometimes a perception that a footballer has a lot of time off. Yeah. But I think when you're a scholar, you're training every day. And if you're not training, you would have to be doing academic work. So there might be a college, a day release day or something like that, or day and a half. So that's Monday to Friday is full. If you want to get better, you would probably maybe come back in the afternoon and do some extra sessions. There's gym work. So you've got a pretty full Monday to Friday with activity, and then you got a game at the weekend. So 6 days a week, from probably the first week of pre-season in the UK, late June, early July, all the way through till May is a you're not allowed to go on a holiday. You can't just take a holiday in the football season. So 6 days a week, you're employed by the football club. People forget about that as well. You're a paid scholar, so when you have to be somewhere, you might have to help out doing various things, manage equipment if you have to do that. So yes, it's not it's not a easy ride for a scholar. It's quite intense. Um, you know, you might get Friday afternoon off, but then you've got to meet at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to go on the coach to play a game anywhere in the country. So it's a pretty full on life, and I think not many people probably appreciate that.
Right. So I think it's not as luxurious as it looks from the outside. Right. And
No, no,
yeah, and now what about for the players? Because you've witnessed so many players coming through the ranks in your coaching career. I'm sure that you've come across players who are not a part of a program like Norwich City, where they are probably only committed to the training ground and that's it. So now, what tips would you give aspiring players on how to live their life on and off the field if their only commitment where they are being controlled is the training ground.
yeah, yeah. I think so. In the role I have at Sudbury, we're what you call like a part time club, and we have scholars 16 to 19. They're not paid. They're not being fed by us. There's lots of things which they have to take control of. So aspiring players who are looking to break levels need to display behaviours um, which are professional. So you've got all around the world you've got the American college system, which is an elite level of sport, but those guys are a little bit left to their devices regarding things like nutrition. They're not left to their devices, but they're not cooked for. They're not provided with all these luxuries maybe that a professional has, but it's basically gleaning information. What do you need?
Yeah.
There are so many professional people within sport who work within sport at all levels, and it is educating yourself. And could be anything. It can be going on a podcast. It can be going to your local gym, and there just happens to be a really good strength and conditioning guy there who would give you some information for next to no fee. It is gleaning information off anybody.
Yeah.
You might have friends who take part in other sports, and you think, crikey, that got my friend's a tennis player or something. How's he so powerful? Well, he's done this type of training. So you need to be a bit of a self starter,
Yeah.
and you need to go and get the information, and then you need to have enough about you to go and apply it.
And
And
what's your opinion on stuff like looking after your nutrition, your sleep, your going for individual training sessions, perhaps one-to-one coaching, and basically anything else that can accelerate the development of a player?
yeah, I think you have to be a bit careful because it can become all encompassing. Um, and I mentioned extra training in the other question, but rest is important as well. You can do too much, and you can worry about your food too much, and you can worry about those gym sessions too much. You do need to, a relaxed footballer is somebody who's going to be a progressive one. If you're relaxed and you're enjoying it, and you're not putting too much pressure on yourself with I've got to eat this, so I should have ate then, or I shouldn't have gone to see my friends then. Of course, you need to be able to do all those things. Otherwise, you're not going to function properly as a human being. We're social people. Most people are social, and you need to have a life away from it for sure. Because I think that helps your life within it, and it's just about getting that balance really. That's key.
And I'm sure it can avoid burnout as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and support is really important. Families, your friends, everybody who you surround yourself with is important for you to achieve what you need to achieve as a player.
Really well said, yes. And now some advice for all the coaches. So you have been an FA coach tutor for the past 15 and a half years. So what would your advice be to coaches who get nervous in their delivery on their assessment? And then, as a result, they may not actually show their true self in action.
Yeah, that's something we come across. I think England Football Learning would say that they don't really do assessments anymore. They're called coach development visits. It's trying to take that assessment word out of it.
Yeah,
However, as a coach developer, you need to see evidence that a coach um, meets certain criteria and behaviours at various levels. I think other federations still might assess. I don't know. I don't work for any other federations. They might have a lot more formal assessment. I, and that's definitely the journey I came through when I was taking my qualifications. We were assessed in a practical coaching assessment, and I think the key I always found was you need to practice. Yeah, you need to you need so if you know you've got a coaching assessment coming up with a certain topic, you need to go and practice that topic
yeah,
because you can't just do it once.
yeah.
You need to practice it. You need to memorize things. You need to visualize and go through. And I suppose it's like any assessment in any given industry. You can't. You need to revise for exams. So you need to practice for the sessions. You can't just hope it's going to go well and 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 do it on a whim. Really, you do need to practice, and you do need to be clear in what the coach, educator, the tutor, whatever you want to call them, is looking for,
Yeah.
and you need to make sure you deliver that, and that's a bit of the driving test. What when you take your driving test, what's the driving examiner looking for, and you do need to follow that sort of path. Um, I think anybody is fairly nervous, but if you've rehearsed, then the nerves will go away.
I think the two important messages here is number one, the just to reiterate that know what the tutor is looking for, and number two, rehearse, practice your session. Very, I'm the golden advice for sure. Now, just before
Absolutely.
just before we end, we always ask every guest, what are your future plans?
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy with what I'm doing at the moment. We have a good growing system at the club I predominantly work with.
Yeah,
Um, I'm also involved in county organisations as well as the coach education. One thing I'm diversifying with a colleague, an ex-player who I know really well. We're operating into the tour industry, so we're because I think overseas experience is really a big thing with youth development. I think it's really important. So I'm actually taking a group to play in a tournament at the end of next week. So into the Mayor's Cup in Las Vegas, which is a prestigious under-19 tournament, which we're going into with a boys group and a girls group.
yeah.
And I think that's something I'm interested in developing more. As I said, me and a colleague have set up this, and we're also going to host teams in the UK as well. So not just the experience of taking English kids abroad,
Yeah.
and British kids. It's hosting overseas players here. If their club or their college or their school can it takes a bit of time to plan something like that. But if you can provide that for your players, we think we're going to give them a really good experience of touring here in the UK and expose them to the home of football, if you like.
That's amazing. So now you're diversifying into one more thing out of the million things that you have already
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
So, yes,
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
exciting, and I wish you good luck with it. So, yes, this was a
Thank you.
fantastic podcast. I think you really gave us some I'd say reality. You just gave us a real perspective of everything, right? From, stuff
Yeah,
to do with man management, stuff to do with coach education. So overall, this was quite fun, quite enjoyable, and I'm sure it's going to be a good resource for all the coaches listening. So yes, thank you for your time, Danny, and hope to speak to you soon.
thanks, Ryan. All the best.